Good afternoon. It's Wednesday, the 29th of October 2014, just after 1 o'clock. Welcome to UK Column News. I'm your host, Brian Gerrish. With me in the studio, and particularly happy, is Mike Robinson.
Yes.
We'll explain that remark in a minute. Now, I'm going to say the weather here in Plymouth is so appalling we can't actually see out of the window. We've had torrential rain. We've got fog, mist, clag. It's just terrible. So that is the end of the weather forecast today. We can't see what the weather is. Well, we better get straight on to Melanie Shaw's court case. Yesterday was the first day of her court case, Nottingham Crown Court. Obviously, we're restricted as to what we can say. The court case is still ongoing. However, there are a few items of interest. First of all, thank you to all the people who turned up to offer Melanie's support. There were over 20 people, too many to get into the courtroom, and many people were upset that the court failed to make arrangements for extra seating to bring people in. And of course, a number of individuals had attended High Court hearings where public interest was great, and the High Court judges simply allowed people to sit on the floor close to the normal public seating area. But that was not the case in Nottingham Crown Court, and at one stage the judge threatened to clear the court of the public if there was any more discussion over seating arrangements.
Because it was his court?
It was his court, yes. The judge in question, Judge Pert, is interesting gentleman. He's featured quite prominently in the press. This is one article from the Leicester Mercury where he was saying farewell as Leicester's senior presiding judge. And he was very outspoken, according to this article, in criticising government policy on the court service. Judge Pert said, "You'd think Mr. Grayling would know crime doesn't pay. We're doing something that is a service and that will always cost money. It's not like a business. We can't make a profit. We've someone in Whitehall drawing up lists and ticking boxes, and it's just wrong." So he was giving Chris Grayling quite a hammering there. This is a picture of Judge Pert. And there's a number of other articles. This was just one we came across from the Lebanon Times, but you'll find it reported in other mainstream papers, including the Telegraph. It's a story that a paedophile with HIV had been jailed for having unprotected sex with a young boy, but following a another hearing, he won his legal battle to allow him to work in places where children are present. So this is Judge Pert again, and this is part of the detail of the story. That basically the paedophile had been given an order which prevented him from working in places where there were young children. Although he was called back to prison later for having another go at grooming children, this went to appeal. And it was at the appeal, Mr. Justice Bean, who's the judge top in the picture, and Judge Michael Pert lower, along with Lady Justine Hallett, said it would not be right to condemn the gentleman to a life of unemployment. So the ruling was that basically if they stopped him working where he could come into contact with children, then he couldn't earn a living, and so they were happy to remove that ruling from him. So the second bit was Mr. Justin Bean concluded, "We bear in mind that the offence was serious, and that in light of the nature of that offence and the incident behind the eBay items," this was another attempt at grooming, "the defendant can properly be described as a predatory paedophile. Nonetheless, we consider, in accordance with the guidance of the relevant case law, that Kimprikidis points are well made." This is where the gentleman was challenging the restrictions on him. The trial judge said that it would not be desirable to condemn Kimprikidis to a life on benefits, and we agree. So that was quite an interesting ruling by this judge, which resulted in restrictions on this, as they describe him, effectively a predatory paedophile being lifted. Well, this was Melanie Shaw, photographed outside the court yesterday. She'd had a particularly harrowing day in court where the CPS had essentially branded her as having a grudge against a lady who had worked with social services when the local social services took Melanie's son. The bulk of the hearing yesterday was Crown Prosecution Service with some input by Melanie's defence barrister. Today, as the court case is ongoing, we can expect the defence to be putting a full case into court. So we wait to hear more on that. It was quite interesting that there was this very strange car parked all day on double yellow lines outside Nottingham Crown Court, and it had a notice in the windscreen which said, just in type, plain type, no logos, that the car was there due to urgent police operations. Many people commented on this. It was quite bizarre, absolutely no police markings at all on this vehicle. Just this strange note in the windscreen there. Make of that what you will. Well, the court did see one journalist from the Nottingham Post who came in and listened to the case put forward by the Crown Prosecution Service. Otherwise, there was a dearth of journalists. Interestingly enough, the main BBC building is only about 100 yards away from the court. Clearly, these people were too busy to go and see what was going to happen in court with the key whistleblower for abuse at Beechwood Children's Home. We did notice that, of course, they're big on poppies, so a lovely little window display of poppies. But I'm afraid our view is that the BBC's consistently betrayed British troops fighting and dying overseas and refuses to talk about the unlawful nature of those wars. Slight digression there, but obviously poppies are part of the subject at the moment. Now, another little interesting item is that many people on the internet have been raising questions about the role of a top police media guru called Matt Tapp. And this gentleman has been involved with many of the key child abuse inquiries from Jersey, Soham, right the way through across the country. He is currently engaged in some very big contracts to provide media services with the police. And at one stage, he was actually providing the media lead on Operation Daybreak, which of course is the police investigation into child abuse, which resulted once Melanie Shaw had blown the whistle on the serious abuses at Beechwood Home. That was back in 2011. Well, we over recent days and weeks, we've been trying to get from the police a clearer picture as to the role of this gentleman, but it seems to be becoming cloudier, not clearer. If we can just bring up this email. This is an email into us from Nottingham Police, and they say Matt Tapp is no longer the head of communications at Nottinghamshire Police and is no longer responsible for media coverage in respect of Operation Daybreak. Now, this gets a little bit confusing because it was indicated that Mr. Tapp was back working with Leicestershire Police, and indeed his own LinkedIn page says this is the case. But in telephone calls through to Leicestershire Police, they themselves appeared confused as to whether he was or was not working with them. They suggested that our calls were best placed with the Leicestershire Police and Crime Commissioner. And in fact, in talking to Leicester, they sort of said, well, you're best speaking back through to Nottinghamshire Police. So we've got a very strange situation where Matt Tapp Associates are earning vast sums of money by providing this specialist media consultancy, not just to Nottingham Police and Leicestershire Police, but also the Metropolitan Police, big sums of money to handle the police media around cases of child abuse. So we'll be sticking with this story. We haven't been able to speak to Mr. Tapp directly as yet. We hope to in the near future, and we'll see if we can establish exactly who he is working for and, of course, what his terms of reference are. Seems to us there's a fine line between the bringing out the truth of what's happening in the police investigation and perhaps putting a bit of media spin on it.
Yeah.
Well, are you still happy?
I think I need happiness training.
Yeah.
And that seems to be what the government is going to provide me
A
with.
little bit of a nudge towards happiness.
A nudge towards happiness.
Okay,
So
take
here
it
we
away.
go. What Works Wellbeing. So this is a new independent centre dedicated to making policy and services work for well-being. And of course, it's being run by God. And so this new What Works Centre for Wellbeing is going to commission universities to research the impact that different interventions and services have on well-being. They say that the initial focus of their research is going to be on what works for well-being in relation to work and learning, communities, cultural and sporting activities. And the results are going to help government councils, health and well-being boards, charities and businesses make decisions on matters for the well-being of people, communities and the nation as a whole. And these are the three main partners here: British Telecom, the Happy City Initiative, and I find that logo absolutely fascinating, and Bristol City Council. So Gus O'Donnell is running this.
Is that I've just got to say, is that my imagination? If you look at the Happy City Initiative, you can look at it as a hand with a finger, but the fingers also give you 666. Is that
that's right? That's right. And the world is at its fingertips. So absolutely amazing little logo there. So
Happy City
Initiative. Okay. So this independent. Let's remember that it is independent centre. Is the latest addition to the What Works network, and here are the other members of the What Works network. So we've got NICE, the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence. We've got the Sutton Trust. We've got the College of Policing. We've got the Early Intervention Foundation. We've got the What Works for Local Economic Growth. We've got the Centre for Ageing Better. How do you age better, Brian?
Well, they're improve quality of life for older people,
right, okay.
So they put them through the NHS and euthanize them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the What Works Centre for Wellbeing, and this is the latest one.
Yeah.
So it builds apparently on the work of the Office for National Statistics to measure national wellbeing, and also the work of the Commission on Wellbeing and Policy, which was also chaired by God. He's also chairing a development group to get this wellbeing centre up and running. So that's pretty good stuff. And as I say, BT involved, Bristol City Council involved, and this little organisation, the Find Happiness in Your City. And apparently we're going to find happiness in 3D. We're going to have why happiness has to be taken seriously. Really, it's all about happiness, because everything that the government is doing at the moment
is to make us happy.
Making people sad. So they've got to make us happy at the same time, and maybe they won't be assassinated or something. I don't know what their thinking is here. But anyway, this Happy City is a community interest company. That's brilliant. So
this is big society at work, Mike, isn't it? This is elements of big society, the third sector, which is actually being used to create political and social policy.
Indeed.
I think.
So anyway, who's involved in this? Because this is independent, so there's not going to be anybody from government involved. But in fact, we've got Oliver Letwin, and of course, we all know that in the past he's been very sad, and he's been so sad in the past that he thought the best thing to do was to dispose of government documents in rubbish bins.
Classified documents, but it wasn't a problem. Nothing happened to him.
But he's had his happiness training, so now he can get involved in this. So the What Works network is designed to support commissioners and decision makers at every level of government, from head teachers and local police chiefs to ministers and civil servants. It's great to see a wellbeing centre added to this growing network to support public health directors, businesses and charities in improving wellbeing across the UK. How is it possible to have 50 words there that actually mean nothing?
Well, you could say it means nothing, but actually, Mike, they are telling us exactly what they're doing. They're building this network which is into every part of our lives. So, I know what you mean. It sounds complete rubbish, but we know what they're doing. They are building a new form of government.
Right.
Big society.
Not to be outdone, here we've got Sir Jeremy Haywood, head of the British Civil Service. And he said it is vital that the service has the skills and capacity to ensure that government decision-making is supported by high-quality evidence. We are using evidence and behavioural insights to drive real change across government. I welcome the creation of a What Works Centre for Wellbeing as the latest step in embedding evidence-based policy policy making across government and the wider public sector. Well, of course, we are the sort of main people that have exposed this situation. The government is leading on the What Works initiative, and of course their main advisor is a gentleman called Dr. David Halpern. Now in 2010 we produced this little diagram which shows the links between the government, Common Purpose, Demos, which is the leftist think tank, the Franco-British Council, and David Cameron's Big Society. And these people have all been pushing this behavioural change agenda. And this is all about changing the behaviour of the British people in various ways.
So if we just say on the diagram, top left there, we've got Gus O'Donnell above David Cameron. You've got Jeff Mulgan tied up in the Young Foundation. He's one of the key drivers of this new policy. And Julia Middleton and, of course, our old friend Francis Maude.
Yes. So it's all the same. The usual suspects at work here. So you look at this new initiative, and we were talking about these individuals in 2010, and it's still these individuals pushing this agenda 4 years later. But let's just highlight our friend here, Dr. David Halpern, because he is the mainstay behind the Behavioural Insights team, which has now been spun out into a mutual, so it's no longer government. And this is why they insist on using this word independent, because although this guy is a career civil servant, and absolutely worked within the civil service and is pushing government change, he is still considered independent because they've been spun out into a mutual, and they're no longer, they've just wiped their address books. They don't speak to anybody in government anymore, of course. And so we were highlighting this network at work 4 or 5 years ago, still at work now, and we need to look very carefully at it. So let's just list the organisations that are involved in this. We've got the Economic and Social Research Council, Public Health England, Department for Business, Innovation and Skills, Department for Communities and Local Government, Department for Work and Pensions, Department for Health, Cabinet Office, Arts and Humanities Research Council, Food Standards Agency, Local Government Association, Office for National Statistics, the Big Lottery Fund, Department for Culture, Media and Sport, the Arts Council England, Sports England, English Heritage, National Lottery Fund, and of course, as we mentioned before, BT Happy City and Bristol City Council. So this is completely independent of government, as you can see. Now, of course, these organisations that I've just read are not providing financial funding, but they're providing in-kind resourcing and support. So most of the funding is £3.5 million is being put into this initially.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Very, very sinister stuff, because this is attacking the minds of the populations. Somebody's put in the chat room, what about children? Well, of course, children are very, very vulnerable because they haven't got any baseline of what life should be like. They're going to be skewed, nudged into this new way of thinking. So if we are concerned that we've got Westminster with an unnatural level of criminals and paedophiles, we've now got these people saying they're going to mess around with people's minds to reframe us into their way of thinking. Yeah, interesting. Well, we've got a bit more nudging going on here with the Daily Mail. A fascinating article where they are using statistics and surveys to say, well, actually, the public is wrong. We just don't know what we're talking about. They choose a number of topics from teen pregnancies, jobs, immigration, and they show that what the public thinks versus the reality is just plain wrong. So this is a massive attack on people's self-confidence. We can't make our own judgments because we get it wrong. We've got to trust the government and statistics. But I thought we'd just bring into that mix this sort of news. Well, I know it's the BBC, but you can get this attack from other angles. UK migration figures are a best guess. So when we start to dig into the figures that the Mail is using to prove that we're wrong, what actually comes up is that nobody knows what the truth is about the figures in the first place. So blatant manipulation of public viewpoints, and of course it's got the knife into the heart, which is, well, you're all stupid anyway, you don't really know what you're talking about. Nice one, Daily Mail. And of course, if we want to attack people at a different level, we come in and and denigrate people who've served their country, people who are giving up free time to collect under the Poppy Appeal for those that have given their lives in world wars and other wars. And Welcome Break has responded by saying, well, actually, we're not going to allow people to collect for poppies until just the last 2 days, because Welcome Break is going to support children in need. And so if you're thinking about having a coffee, we'd say just don't bother to stop at Welcome Break. There are plenty more. But we can have a discussion on whether people should be donating to these children charities either. What do you reckon this is, Mike? Is this just to get people angry, do you think? Who knows?
Who knows?
Okay, well, money.
Money, right. Well, on Monday we mentioned this because the European Central Bank issued their stress test report, which was, as expected, a whitewash, as they completely ignored the stress of high-risk financial instruments such as derivatives. And of course, the ECB gave banks such as Deutsche Bank a clean bill of health. Well, it seems that it wasn't only derivatives that the ECB was ignoring, but also legal bills. Legal bills, in fact, as a result of fraud. So they're just completely ignoring this. And unfortunately, Deutsche Bank has reported a net loss in the third quarter. And this is a result of heavy legal bills. Why? Because they've spent 7 billion euros on fines and settlements since 2012, 894 million in this quarter on fines, and this loss is 1 day after they reshuffled and expanded their board of directors in an attempt to focus on resolving. I'm just going to quote Reuters here for a second. They say, in an attempt to focus on resolving the long list of lawsuits and investigations. So it's not about actually dealing with the fraud and corruption within the banking system. It's just about dealing with the fines. And
I think I'm right in saying that Deutsche Bank, of course, was one of Julia Middleton's prized banks. So Julia Middleton of the political charity Common Purpose, waxing lyrical over tremendous banks like Lehman Brothers, East German bankers, tremendous role model, and Deutsche Bank, one of the big powerful banks, helping the common purpose agenda. We should be looking up to these bankers because these are the upstanding people, apart from when they're committing fraud and manipulating interest rates. Right, Nobody gone to prison yet, though, Mike.
Indeed, and we're going to come on to a bit more of this now, because it's not just in Germany that this kind of problem exists. Here in the UK, the Bank of England has told banks once again that, quote, city misconduct is undermining public trust. This is the Deputy Governor, Manoush Shafiq, and she says that the financial sector's deep-rooted problems must be tackled to restore confidence. And I say, isn't this exactly the same rhetoric that was expressed immediately following the 2007-2008 crash? And indeed it is. Now, she said that she found the behaviour of the LIBOR fraudsters, quote, outrageous, and that the fines for this so-called misconduct, because everything in the mainstream media is about misconduct, it's not about fraud. Everything at the UK or crime. So we're calling it as it is. And she said that this misconduct, the fines for this misconduct were like the salt rubbed into the wounds of public confidence in financial markets.
Oh, right.
There you go. So in the UK, so we've already mentioned that Deutsche Bank has spent around 7 billion euros on fines, and here in the UK, that figure is £4 billion. And this, of course, is for the, quote, manipulation, not for the crime of LIBOR fraud. It's for the manipulation of LIBOR and other rates. And that's also before the fines for rigging the currency markets, which is an even bigger fraud. And those fines are due to be announced in November. A question I need to ask here is, when are we going to learn our lesson here? We're going to keep seeing this type of nonsense rhetoric from these types of people until we deal with the City of London, and that means, sorry to say it again, Glass-Steagall, split these banks up, deal with the standard of their operations, put the people that have committed criminal acts in prison where they belong, and put the fraud out of business.
Does anybody know anything about this lady? I'm always fascinated with these people. So she's the I've still got a deputy governor.
Yeah.
And I mean, who is she? Where did she come from? Who appointed her?
Well-
What's her is her loyalty to Britain in any way?
No.
Or is it simply the
No.
international?
No, nobody that works for the Bank of England has any loyalty to Britain. They work for the international financial system.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, that's probably why we don't want them in jail.
indeed.
So, talking of fraud and corruption, we better continue with the European Union, and this is part of the nonsense at the moment in the mainstream press. We've got here, plan for the EU referendum bill is collapsing amid bitter coalition row. So we've got David Cameron squabbling with little Nicky Clegg. Nicky Clegg says, I'm not going to let you have a referendum on in or out of the euro unless you vote for my bedroom tax.
Well, no, he wanted to remove the bedroom tax.
He wants to remove the
Yeah.
bedroom, yeah.
But Cameron won't remove the bedroom tax. They're using the bedroom tax as a tennis ball again. They're passing it backwards and forwards between each other. What they don't want to have is a referendum, so they're finding any excuse that they possibly can.
Yeah, we're trying to run a country with two of the top supposed leaders squabbling either over the bedroom or perhaps they're squabbling in the bedroom. I don't know where they're squabbling, but I can imagine it's pretty mucky. So this is going to lead to disaster, but let's have a look at where the Scottish question comes in, because we've now got the Scottish National Party leader, Nicola Sturgeon, who says, well, wait a minute, you can't have a decision on EU without it being backed by all four nations. And my comment to this is it's got to be incredible hypocrisy that when it comes to Scotland leaving the Union, well, the only people who are going to get a vote on that is Scotland. But if we want to talk about leaving the EU, suddenly she switches sides and everybody's got to have a vote on that one.
Well, I mean, this is nonsense anyway, because of course it would be a UK-wide referendum, so all four countries would have a vote on this.
Well,
so
where's this one going?
Well, what she's really again doing, and it leads in very well to the next story, is pushing the notion that we are four separate nations rather than one country, and this is a little nudge. If I'd just like to thank Alex, UK, one of our members here, for this story, because really the campaigns for Constitutional Convention are all coming out of the out of the woodwork rather. So that's 28 of them now, to be precise. And here's one, Unlock Democracy, who are supporting Wicked Willie's Devolution Committee. And here's another one, the Electoral Reform Society. And here's another, the British Youth Council. And there's 28. So there's the Electoral Reform Society, there's King's College London, there's Unlock Democracy, Political and Constitutional Reform Committee, which is Graham Allen MP's committee. There's the Association of Chief Executives of Voluntary Organisations, Democratic Audit, Reading University, National Council for Voluntary Organisations, the British Youth Council, King's College London again, there's a couple of these are repeated because there's various signatories to this, the Centre for Women and Democracy, Democratic Society, University of Cardiff, University of Sheffield, Solace, Queen's University Belfast, Open Democracy, well of course that's George Soros, University of Liverpool, Engender Scotland, Involve, Jesus College Oxford, Compass, the London School of Economics, and Bristol University, and Bite the Ballot. And so what are they up to? Well, they're calling for a constitutional convention based on 5 principles, that it's UK-wide, it should involve the people of England, Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales, so there we go, the 4 nations again. That it's people-led, a majority of the convention participants should be randomly selected from the population in a way that represents the UK as a whole. It's going to be focused on where power lies, so the convention would focus on deciding the balance of powers between the Westminster government and our nations, regions, localities and people. Nations and regions recognised, so they want the main convention should be informed by discussions at a regional and national level involving people from every section of society. Binding, there must be mechanisms in place. And actually, when you look at this, it's very similar to what the Reset was calling for. Because we're talking about the breakup of the union effectively, and the devolution of everything to the lowest possible level. Now, of course, this is the big society. This is what we've been talking about. Centralised control brought down to the lowest level in society at a local level. So they're saying it's going to be citizen-led, and they're saying that they're going to be randomly selected. But I'd like to know exactly what's that going to be based on. Are we going to find that the 28 organisations that are mentioned here are actually providing the randomly selected personnel for this?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. This is all about destroying approximately 1,000 years of heritage in this country, and it's just amazing that the only pressure group that seems to be standing up for the current British Constitution at the moment British Constitution at the moment is the British Constitution Group, and so of course we've only got a couple of days now before the conference, and you've got to be there. If you want to do anything about this, you've got to be there. Get to the conference on Saturday. There are still tickets available, although the hotel itself is now full for Saturday night. Now there are rooms available for Friday and Sunday nights for this weekend at the moment. There's plenty of accommodation available in the area, although I hear that is now starting to become less plentiful. And I do know that at least one person has found and has booked a room in a local nudist hotel. Now, he says that was by accident, but I don't know about that. But anyway, if you want to call the hotel, the number for the hotel is where the conference is taking place is 0121 351 3111. That's 0121 351 3111. And then press option 1. And if you leave the password Cult TV, that will you'll get access to somebody who'll give you some details of local alternative accommodation, including the Castle Bromwich Inn, and there are still rooms available. Castle Bromwich Inn still has rooms available for £65 per night for a twin room. So don't forget that on Sunday, of course, as well, there's the health conference, and that's going to be a great day as well. And if you do want to come and pay on the door, then please let Alex G know this by giving a call to that number 07967 111 0332, and just letting him know that you're coming and that you intend to pay on the door. Please do that, because we need to keep track of how many people are coming and how many spaces we have left. Okay, and that's it.
Excellent. Well, just a last comment from me. Number of people get a little bit upset that we're not able to update information as quickly as they would like. We'll just say that we do our best, but particularly if we're travelling, if we're on the road, it puts additional strain on the team back here in Plymouth. So do bear with us. We try and get out as much information as possible, but sometimes we do get a little bit behind. There we are. And thank you to those who have been sending donations to us. We received a very generous donation this morning, so thank you very much to that person. And also thank you to all those of you who've sent cards and gifts and honey and a variety of other things to Melanie Shaw. We're waiting with bated breath really to see what the outcome of today's trial is. We think that it could reach a conclusion today, but we'll have to wait until the end of the day for the final decision. Anything else?
No.
That's it. Well, the weather is still bad outside, and hopefully there'll be a bit of sun shining tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.